Hello everyone, my name is Yara and today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I want to read in 2019. Now this is different from a video I previously posted called my most anticipated releases of 2019. Those are all new releases that are going to come out this year. These are books that have been out for a pretty long time and that I just haven't gotten to yet. They've been on my TBR for years for a lot of them and I just want to finally get to them in 2019. It's also a way for me to crack down on my physical TBR. Not all of these books are on my physical TBR, some of them are just books that I really need to get to that have been on my Goodreads to-read list for years. But I'm going to start with the books that I physically own first. So first I have Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys. This is a historical fiction novel about the mass deportation of Lithuanians during World War II. I have owned this for 3 years now. I bought it in January of 2016, and I don't know why I haven't read it yet. I really enjoyed Ruta Sepetys' other book, Salt to the Sea, and it was a very poignant story about World War II, and World War II stories are some of my favorite historical fiction stories to read, so I just really don't know why I haven't read it yet. This is very high on my TBR. I really want to get to it within the next month. Next, I have Watchmen by Alan Moore. This was actually a part of my Booktubeathon TBR for 2018, but I ended up DNFing it because I don't think I was in quite the mood for it. This is another book that I have owned for over 3 years now, and I just want to finish it. I was recommended this by my brother, and he never reads, so the fact that he told me to read this was a sign that I probably should. So I'm gonna give it another try, but if I'm really not feeling it, then I'm just gonna DNF it. However, I do want to give it a solid chance. Next, I have Hollow City and Library of Souls, both by Ransom Riggs, which are books 2 and 3 of the Miss Peregrine's series. Trilogy? I don't know. So I read Miss Peregrine's around the time it came out, and I did enjoy it, but I never ended up getting to the second and third book, even though I bought them. This is even signed, which makes me feel even more guilty, the fact that I did not read it. I think what's putting me off to reading these is the fact that I do have to reread the first book in order to understand, because I remember virtually nothing from it, and I'm lazy. There hasn't been much talk about this series in a long time, but the fact that I do own them is kind of pressuring me to read them, so I'll give it a go. That's like the theme of this entire video, is I'll give it a go. These next few books are pretty recent acquisitions, so I'm not putting too much guilt on myself for not having read them yet. This next book is The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. This book got a lot of hype around BookTube this past year, and it seems like something I would really enjoy. I love magical realism, and I love contemporaries that deal with kind of hard topics. I think they make for really powerful stories, and so I'm super excited to finally get to this year. Then we have The Golem and the Genie by Helene Wecker. This is a historical fantasy set in New York about a golem and a genie. I had just recently bought this like 2 weeks ago, but it has been on my Goodreads TBR for literally 6 years. I actually remember Reagan from Peru's Project calling it and thinking that this is something I would absolutely love. For some reason, because of the summary or because of what people have said about this book, it kind of gives me similar vibes to The Night Circus or some other fantasy novel that is really magical to read about. I don't know if that makes sense. However, I want to talk to whoever designed this book because the font in here is freaking small and I don't appreciate it. The next book I have is Letters to the Lost by Bridget Kemmerer. I actually don't know much about this book in terms of plot, but Murphy over at Murphy Napier recommended this. It's another one of those kind of hard-hitting contemporary novels, and I'm always in the mood for those. I also saw this on Amazon for $9, so you know I had to pick it up. And the last book I have is The Lines Be Crossed by Randa Abdul Fattah. Again, I don't know too much about this book aside from the fact that it has two main characters, one who is a Muslim refugee and another who is a white supremacist. Sajid over at Books Are My Social Life actually said this was his favorite book of 2017, and so your girl had to go buy it. And yeah, so I'm always excited to read about Muslim characters, especially written by a Muslim author. I always want to support them because they aren't very much in the YA genre. So those are all of the books that are on my physical TBR that I'm going to try my hardest to actually read this year and finally get them off of my conscience. Maybe I'll make a deal with myself that if I don't read the books that I just mentioned, especially the ones that I've owned for over 2 years, that if I don't read them by next year, I have to unhaul them. Oh wait, I forgot one more book that I actually physically own, and that is Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. I bought this when it came out, but I never read it. I think I was kind of leaving my phase of Shadowhunters. I was kind of tired of the world. But recently as in like within the last year or two, I think, I reread The Infernal Devices, and I actually really enjoyed it, so I figured that maybe I'm not sick of the Shadowhunter world, and this series just ended, so I can probably just marathon it really quickly. Or I guess not quickly, this book is pretty big. And also, given the fact that The Last Hours is also coming out this year, which I'm actually very excited for, that I have to read this. So now are a bunch of books that I want to read that I don't physically own. The next book I have is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is another World War II historical fiction novel, and it has had absolutely raving reviews, and I have a feeling it's gonna tear my heart apart, and I'm ready. Then we have The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I'm really trying hard this year to read more adult high fantasy, especially after reading the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson and absolutely loving that. Adult high fantasy is pretty intimidating, especially because the actual novels are long in page count and the series are sometimes like 10 books long. But if I don't start, I'll never get there. And The Name of the Wind has been on my Goodreads TBR also for about 6 years, and it has also been absolutely raved about by a lot of people that I trust their reviews. And yeah, I should actually read it for once. And these next few books are essentially like the Brandon Sanderson section. I only wrote that I wanted to read Stormlight Archive, but if I'm being honest with myself, I really want to try to get to a lot of his other books. So I want to read Stormlight Archive, Mistborn Era 2, Warbreaker, and Skyward. I might start with Warbreaker because it is a standalone, but I definitely want to get to those other longer series. I'm actually not sure if I should go straight into Mistborn Era 2 after reading Warbreaker or Stormlight Archive. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. There's actually a lot more books that I want to read, such as Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, or The Lies of Locke Lamora, and Peter Pan. These are all based off of a lot of booktuber recommendations. If you've read any of these books and you highly suggest some of them, please let me know in the comments. I definitely want to get to all of them, but it would help to know where I should start maybe. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day. Bye!